So is Trump just questioning facts? Is the FBI going to expand our understanding of the same? And is he, another topic, but an important one, don't forget about that New York Times story, is he the wonder boy of business he claims or just daddy's boy? Let's put it to the debaters, Ana Navarro and Steve Cortes. Let's start first with the line. Steve Cortes, would you stand up in front of any crowd and say the kinds of things about an alleged victim that the president said last night?
I would not, Chris, and I said this on CNN last night. By the way, I love the line, the lasagna of lousy. That's
you can
a
have
great
it.
one.
That's a present
right.
to you for telling the truth on this first one. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. My mother is an Irish woman, and she cooks, unfortunately, like the Irish. She boiled everything, so she would make the lasagna of lousy.
Now
Mom,
he's in a hole, Anna. You diss your mama's cooking, you're going to take a beat down. So you don't like what he said, and that shows you have a touch of, you have your hand on the pulse of decency. But he said it anyway.
A touch of decency.
Why?
I've got a lot more than a touch, Chris. No, listen, I think this was very unhelpful for two reasons. I do. First of all, politically, I think it's a mistake because I think the momentum is moving toward the nomination. Don't step on that momentum, okay? Let the process work because I think it's working towards confirmation. But secondly, and more importantly, I think that it was, I would wish he had stayed where he was last week when he talked about her testimony being compelling, because I think it was. I think Brett Kavanaugh's was also very compelling, by the way. But even if you disbelieve her, and he clearly does, and I think he probably has good reasons to, but even if you do, I think it's important, Chris, that we as a society treat accusers, even ones we don't trust or believe, we treat them with respect. Why? Because when there are actual victims, we want to make sure that they're not reticent to come forward because they're afraid be ridiculed. So I think respect for the accusers and the presumption of innocence for the accused. To me, those should be the twin principles by which we should apply, which we should approach all of these cases.
So Anna, why doesn't Trump get it?
Because he's Donald Trump. How many times has he shown us exactly who he is? Like Maya Angelou said, when they show you the first time, believe them. Look, if he wants to be an entertainer, and that's what he was doing last night, right? He was obviously feeding red meat to this crowd. He was being entertaining. He wanted to get them to laugh. He feeds off of that energy he gets. He should go on Saturday Night Live. He should go and do a skit like that if he wants to do it. But he has no business being president of the United States, a role which requires a level of unifying Americans and respecting victims, respecting Americans. It is, to me, another notch on his belt. It is yet another dark moment in the record of Donald Trump as president, which you can now add to mocking John McCain, mocking the disabled reporter, attacking the Khan family, attacking Judge Curiel, attacking Rosie O'Donnell, attacking Meghan O'Connor. I mean, we could go on and on and on. You can now add this to the list of shameful, disgusting, outrageous things that Donald Trump has done. But he's also doing it just a few weeks before an election, and he's doing it in midst of a conversation that has grasped the country. The entire country is talking about sexual harassment and sexual assault. If you guys haven't read it, I suggest that you read a column that Connie Chung, respected journalist and reporter, wrote today about sharing her trauma, telling her pain, her sexual harassment story, which happened not 36 years ago,
50.
Happened over 50 years ago. And you hear the pain. Well, that's happening all over America. Victims of sexual assault all over America are identifying with Christine Ford and her pain. And so for him to trivialize it and make fun of it, it's disrespecting all of those people.
Yeah. What do you think about it coming back to haunt? Do you think that the Kavanaugh, if confirmed, that will be such succor for the base, that it will overwhelm whatever damage is done, Steve, with the insensitivity and the lack of empathy for a group of people that we're trying to encourage to come out?
Well, listen, I think the Trump base is motivated by this whole saga, but not by what Trump said at the rally. I think they're motivated.
They were cheering like crazy.
The
more he mocked her, the more they cheered.
I think the base is very motivated by the reprehensible conduct of the Democratic senators on that committee, particularly Senator Dianne Feinstein, who, by the way, if you want to talk about abusing Professor Ford, no one abused her and used her more than Senator Feinstein did. She could have done this privately. She could have done this early. She chose to sit on it. She chose to play this card from the bottom of the deck at the 11th hour, and she abused
He said
Professor
she knows
Ford.
nothing.
And
He said
I
she
may,
was lying
I think,
about her drinking. Go ahead, Anna.
Listen,
Hold on,
I don't think
Chris,
there is
I just told you I
any
didn't appreciate
reasonable
the president's
person.
comments. I can see
There is
that
no
point.
reasonable
But I'm
person
saying
in America
You asked about
who would tell you
motivating
that,
the
that
base.
whatever
And in terms of what will motivate
Hold on a
the
second.
base,
I know, but just
believe,
you made a point. Let Anna respond. Go ahead.
Yeah, the point he made was that nobody had abused Christine Ford more than Dianne Feinstein. That is an abominable thing to say. This woman just told you about the pain that she's had for 35 years from suffering from and being a victim of sexual assault. If you think that, however, this has been handled, and it may not have been handled
in
the
this
right
process,
way. We
Anna,
don't know.
in
we
this
don't know.
process.
Okay, well, let me tell you this, and I didn't interrupt you. We don't know that Dianne Feinstein leaked this. This is something you want to set as fact. We don't know. I don't know. I wish we knew.
We know it came from the Democrats because they're the only ones who had it.
I know this much. That being the victim of sexual assault and enduring that pain pales in comparison, and is no comparison to being victim of process or having some sort of muddy process in Congress. If you think they are the same, if you think that what's happened in the last few weeks,
I never said anything like that. Anna. Don't put words in my mouth.
That's exactly
I'm
what you
saying
said. Go look at what you said. You said that nobody had victimized her worse than the Democrats and Dianne Feinstein. Take it back. Take it back. That's exactly
Maybe you didn't
what
mean
you
it,
said.
but you said it.
You were comparing to
That's exactly what you said.
Donald Trump said. And I'm saying, no, it had nothing to do with what happened or didn't happen
Make
to
the
her
point again.
36 years ago. I'm talking about in this process today, in this political saga that this country's endured, that they've endured, the principals in this case, she has been, and both Brett Kavanaugh and Professor Ford have been totally used and abused by Senator Feinstein and the Democrats. Why? Because they will run over anyone, even someone they claim to have incredible empathy for. We know it's from the Democrats because they're the only ones who had it. Yes, I do have proof. That the Democrats leaked it? Yes.
Nobody else has it.
The proof
there has been no proof put out that it was the Democrats who did
the letter.
Well, look, it is fair to assume
It is
fair to assume two things.
It's impossible for them to leak something they don't have.
Well, we don't know that they didn't have it because we now know that staffers had notice of different allegations. Whether they acted on them or not, we won't know until people start leaking. Luckily, people leak plenty down in Washington, D.C. But here's what we know. It is more likely that it would be leaked by the Democrats than the Republicans because the Republicans had nothing to gain. And that goes to a main point here, Steve, that I think you have to be careful about in your calculus of massaging the process and the good guys and the bad guys. You guys didn't want the truth in this process about this allegation. You did the exact minimum you could do, and you fought it the entire way because what you really wanted was the easiest path for Kavanaugh you could find. That's what it was about. No self-respecting Republican who cared about Christine Ford would have handled it even close to this way. So you got to own that, too. The Democrats may have played it poorly, but the Republicans were happy that they did.
Right.
Because they didn't want to deal with this any more than they absolutely had to.
Sure. Well, listen, Chris, you keep saying you. I'm not part of the Senate. And I will tell you, by the way, on this Republican, but on the Republican and Democratic side, that entire committee to me is a campaign, is a commercial, a brochure practically for term limits. We need term limits for a lot of people.
Certainly need a better process.
R or D on that committee. But my point is the Republicans, as far as we know, the Republicans did not have this information early. Only Senator Feinstein did, when she could have handled it confidentially and privately. Instead, she chose to sit on it.
But we know
this. To hold
Republicans
that card and play it at the most opportune political moment.
All right, I hear you, Steve.
It was a devious and diabolical move by her.
All right, final word to you, Anna.
Here's the bottom line. This entire discussion about process is a nice distraction and deflection. But the issue at hand is whether we are going to put in the Supreme Court a man who has been credibly accused of sexual assault and after that has been revealed to be something very different than what he has painted himself as for the last several weeks. A man who has now been revealed as being a liar in front of Congress, a man who is tearing this country apart, the social fiber of this country, and a man who's been revealed to be a partisan attack dog who's going to be incapable of the judicial independence required to sit in the highest court in the land in a lifetime appointment.
Well, Let's see what happens when the report comes out. The votes will be cast, and then all will be judged. Steve, Anna, thank you. The FBI report could be headed to